conscious effort to keep my brain quite cool. I had not the reputation of being of an excitable temperament, but the contrary. Yet I could, at that moment, see my way to a condition in which one might become insane in an instant. It was as if a fissure opened somewhere, and I saw my way into a madhouse. Then it closed, and everything went on as before. Once in my life I had obtained a slight glimpse of the same sensation, and then, too, strangely enough, while swimming in the mightiest ocean surge into which I had ever dared plunge my mortal body. Keats hints at the same sudden emotion in a wild poem written among the Scottish mountains. It was not the distinctive sensation which drowning men are said to have, that spasmodic passing in review of one's whole personal history. I had no well-defined anxiety, felt no fear, was moved to no prayer, did not give a thought to home or friends. Only it swept over me, as with a sudden tempest, that if I meant to get back to my own camp, I must keep my wits about me. I must not dwell on any other alternative, any more than a boy who climbs a precipice must look down. Imagination had no business here. That way madness lay. There was a shore somewhere before me, and I must get to it, by the ordinary means, before the ebb laid bare the flats, or swept me below the lower bends of the stream. That was all. Suddenly a light gleamed for an instant before me, as if from a house in a grove of great trees upon a bank, and I knew that it must come from the window of a ruined plantation building, where our most advanced outposts had their headquarters. The flash revealed to me every point of the situation. I saw at once where I was, and how I got there, and the tide had turned while I was swimming, and with a much briefer interval of slack water than I had been led to suppose, that I had been swept a good way downstream, and was far beyond all possibility of regaining the point I had left. Could I, however, retain my strength to swim 100 or 200 yards further, of which I had no doubt, and if the water did not ebb too rapidly, of which I had more fear, then I was quite safe. Every stroke took me more and more out of the power of the current, and there might be an eddy to aid me. I could not afford to be carried much further, for there the channel made a sweep towards the wrong side of the river, and there was now no reason why I should not reach land. I could dismiss all fear, indeed, except for that of being fired upon by our own sentinels, many of whom were then new recruits, and with the usual disposition to shoot first and investigate afterwards. I found myself swimming in shallow and shallower water, and the flat seemed almost bare where I neared the shore, where the great gnarled branches of the live oaks hung over the muddy bank. Floating on my back for noiselessness, I paddled rapidly with my hands, expecting momentarily to hear the challenge of the picket, and the ominous click so likely to follow. I knew that some one should be pacing to and fro along that beat, but could not tell at what point he might be at that precise moment. Besides, there was the faint possibility that some chatty corporal might have carried the news of my bath thus far along the line, and they might be partially prepared for this unexpected visitor. Suddenly, like another flash, came the quick, quaint challenge. "Halt! Who go da?" Friend, with the countersign," I retorted, with chilly but conciliatory energy, rising at full length out of the shallow water to show myself a man and a brother. "Advance, friend, and give de countersign," responded the literal soldier, who at such a tune would have accosted a spirit of light or goblin damned with no other formula. I advanced and gave it. He recognized my voice at once, and then and there, as I stood, a dripping ghost, beneath the trees before him, the unconscionable fellow, wishing to exhaust upon me the utmost resources of military hospitality, deliberately presented arms. Now, a soldier on picket, or at night, usually presents arms to nobody, but a sentinel on camp guard by day is expected to perform that ceremony to anything in human shape that has 2 rows of buttons. Here was a human shape, but so utterly buttonless that it exhibited not even a rag to which a button could by any earthly possibility be appended. Buttonless, even potentially, and my blameless Ethiopian presented arms to even this. Where, then, are the theories of Carlyle, the axioms of Sartorius, the inability of humanity to conceive a naked Duke of Windlestraw addressing a naked House of Lords? Cautioning my adherent, however, as to the proprieties suitable for such occasions thenceforward, I left him watching the river with renewed vigilance, and awaiting the next merman who should report himself. Finding my way to the building, I hunted up a sergeant and a blanket, got a fire kindled in the dismantled chimney, and sat before it in my single garment, like a moist but undismayed Choctaw, until horse and clothing could be brought round from the causeway. It seemed strange that the morning had not yet dawned, after the uncounted periods that must have elapsed; but when the wardrobe arrived, I looked at my watch, and found that my night in the water had lasted precisely 1 hour. Galloping home, I turned in with the clarity, and without a drop of whiskey, and waked a few hours after in excellent condition. The rapid changes of which that department has seen so many, and perhaps to so little purpose, soon transferred us to a different scene. I have been on other scouts since then, and by various processes, but never with a zest so novel as was afforded by that night's experience. The thing got wind in the regiment, and led to only one ill consequence, so far as I know. It rather suppressed a way I had of lecturing the officers on the importance of reducing their personal baggage to a minimum. They got a trick of congratulating me very respectfully on the thoroughness with which I had conformed my practice to my precepts. End of Chapter 6. Recording by FNH. Visit www.bookranger.co.uk.